A very good evening, Team Zimbabwe. Maswera say. Welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. This evening, we need to take a look on President Emmerson Mnangagwas government. Does this government in this election pass the legitimacy test? It is very difficult for anybody to actually certify this election as legitimate. So we are going to take a look on what transpired on the election day, especially in Harare, or particularly in Harare, so that we get to understand the reason why this election is very uh, much flawed. So if you take a look onto the screen, the headline from Newsday says, "Women bear the brand of flawed poll." And there is a lot of evidence there, a lot of evidence on this article. So they say as late as 11 p.m. on election day, some polling stations had not started the voting process, resulting in a number of voters, mainly women, returning to their homes. There is a trend in the elections of Zimbabwe or in the politics of Zimbabwe. Women are the majority. Point number one. Point number two, women are religious voters. If you see the people who do not vote, the bigger number of the people who do not vote are men. Women, they religiously vote. The percentage of women who vote is greater than the percentage of men. And naturally, women are more than men. So what happened is that there's a reference here or a story of a 33-year-old woman from Cloud Comfort. She's bitter. She failed to cast her vote on 23 and she narrated and actually said that this election was a nightmare. She will have to wait for the next 5 years for her to be able to exercise her constitutional right. What happened is that she was at the polling station at 6 a.m., which means if the system was fair, if the election was done according to the standards, according to the norms, according to its values, this woman would have voted. But she didn't vote. Why? It's because she had left a 2-month-old baby and she had to return home because ballot papers were not yet there at the polling station. So she spent the whole day waiting or trying to find news about the ballot papers, but they didn't come, only for them to come at 9 p.m. This was noted by the observer missions. Observer missions were there, particularly in Harare. The question is, was it a deliberate move by ZEC to deny Harare people or urbanites a chance to vote? If this had happened in the rural areas, we would have said maybe there was a challenge in terms of transportation of ballot papers. But this happened in Harare, close to the headquarters of Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Remember, Zimbabwe is a country where everything is centralized in Harare. Everything is deployed from Harare to various areas and various places. But Harare didn't have ballot papers in time. So how can you go from 7 a.m., 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12 hours without delivering voting materials? Then you say 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 hours more before delivering voting material. and you call that a free, a fair, a credible election? What about those who work at night, who had gone to work, vakaswera vakamirira kuvhota? What happened to them? Someone would argue and say voting was extended to the 24th. The first question is, was the holiday extended to the 24th? No. What caused ballot papers to be delayed is another issue. My heart boils because each and every time I look at Zimbabwe Electoral Commission admitting, or when I look at a report which they published, which claimed that they printed 7 million plus for the presidency, 6 million plus for the MPs, and 6 million plus for the councillors. Whenever I see that report, my heart boils because I continue to ask myself, what went wrong, if not rigging? So for a woman, it was going to be very difficult for her to actually wait up to these late hours, which means a lot of young women were deprived of their right to vote. So you'd see that for us to honestly say that this election was free, was fair, was credible, and for us to actually say there is legitimacy, it won't be the truth. It won't be reality. So they say voting at Cold Comfort Primary School polling station was declared open around 9 p.m. and ended the following morning after the stipulated 12-hour period. So they didn't do much. Mavhotesa vanhu usiku, they were supposed to be an extension. You cannot say vanhu vavhota usiku moti 12 hours dzakwana. Dai kuri kuti vanhu vakavhota simply because malaini anga akakurisa since morning, vanhu vanga vakawandisa, maybe. But remember, hakuna polling station ine vanhu over 1000. Hakuna. What it means is munhu wese aigona kuvhota akapedza during the day, except for a few vanenge vari kumabasa, vanenge vemaessential services vakazodzoka, but these are just a few. So that makes this election questionable. How can you call this election credible? How can somebody claim to be a legitimate president under such circumstances? So we have to agree. We have to agree that this election was flawed. We have to agree that this election did not serve its purpose. And for Zimbabwe to progress well, for Zimbabwe to be back onto the map, we need to find each other. How do we find each other? We have to agree first that this election was a sham. We have to agree that this election has to be redone. That is the only way we can start to build Zimbabwe, because without consensus, without us agreeing that this election does not meet the prerequisites of a free, fair, credible elections, we will not build Zimbabwe. We have to agree. We have to build consensus. We have to have a foundation of understanding. And as young people, we have to take part in building Zimbabwe. But we have been disenfranchised because of some people who believe that they have to remain in power forever and ever and ever. But the war we now have in Zimbabwe is for those who claim that we have come far with this country. They are clashing with those who are saying we have to take this country far. So there are people who came far with this country. There are people who want to take this country far. They are clashing. Our future is at stake. We cannot continue to be bedridden to history. We cannot continue to be bedridden to the past. You did your part. You were there. We were not there. You did your part. We didn't disturb you. It's our time as young people. Leave us. Give us a chance. Allow us. Do what we have to do. So, Team Zimbabwe, this election, in my view, it can't be called a legitimate government. This government and this election cannot stand the legitimacy test. If you look at FAS, if you look at the campaign trail, if you look at the decimation of the opposition, if you look on the arrests of the opposition leaders, if you look on the denial of the opposition rallies, all those things, if you put them together, you agree that this election was shameful. This election cannot pass the legitimacy test. Yes, they have powers, they will continue to be in offices, but in reality, I don't believe that their 5 years will yield anything positive or anything new, unless we go back onto the drawing board and agree on what should happen, or on what needs to be done. We are going to continue to have these problems. Remember, in 2008, we had a GNU. It failed us. The GNU failed to bring fair, credible elections. Reforms, political reforms, electoral reforms were not put in place. The question is, can a GNU solve the political crisis we have? Can it solve the electoral fraud we have? I don't believe so. We need to sit down. We need to talk. We need to have dialogue. We need to be honest with each other. That is the only way we are going to build this country.